Hello, friends. If you receive SSI and you are thinking about leaving the United States for a family visit, a vacation, a religious trip, a medical trip, or a longer stay with relatives overseas, please listen carefully before you buy the ticket. Because for SSI recipients, 30 days outside the United States can stop your payment. And the most dangerous part is this. Many people hear the word Social Security and assume all Social Security payments follow the same travel rules. They do not. SSI is not regular Social Security retirement. SSI is not the same as SSDI. SSI is not the same as survivor benefits. Same agency, different program, different rules, different risk. If you receive SSI, leaving the United States for a full calendar month or for 30 consecutive days or more can make you ineligible for SSI during that absence. And if you stay away long enough to trigger the rule, your SSI may not simply turn back on the moment your plane lands. That is why this video is important. This is not about scaring people away from visiting family. It is about making sure one trip does not create a missing check, a suspended payment, or an overpayment letter later. If you are a senior, a disabled adult caregiver, a spouse, a representative payee, or an adult child helping someone who receives SSI, this is a rule you need to know before travel starts. And before we get into the details, if you are not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Social Security, SSI, Medicare, and senior benefit rules can be confusing, and most people are not personally warned before a mistake happens. I break these rules down in plain English so you know what to ask before money is at risk. Now let's go step by step. Number 1. First, confirm whether you are actually receiving SSI. This is where the mistake begins for many families. A person says, "I get Social Security," but that sentence is not specific enough. One person may be receiving regular Social Security retirement based on their work history. Another person may be receiving SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, based on work credits. Another person may be receiving survivor benefits from a spouse or parent's work record. And another person may be receiving SSI, which stands for Supplemental Security Income. SSI is different because it is a needs-based program for people who are aged, blind, or disabled, and who have limited income and limited resources. It is run by Social Security, but it is not regular Social Security retirement. That difference matters because the 30-day travel warning in this video is an SSI rule. If you receive only regular Social Security retirement, SSDI, or survivor benefits, do not automatically assume this SSI rule applies to that regular benefit. Those programs have their own foreign payment rules, and the answer can depend on citizenship, country, residency, and other details. But if SSI is part of your monthly income, even if you also receive a small retirement or disability check, you must ask about SSI separately. So before any trip, do not ask Social Security a vague question like, "Am I on Social Security?" Ask this instead. "Am I receiving SSI, regular Social Security retirement, SSDI, survivor benefits, or a combination?" And if they say you receive a combination, ask, "Please explain how travel outside the United States affects each benefit separately." That word "separately" matters, because one part of a payment may follow one rule, and the SSI part may follow another. Number 2. For SSI, the United States does not always mean what families assume. This is one of the biggest traps in this topic. For SSI purposes, the United States generally means the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the Northern Mariana Islands. That definition matters because many people hear names like Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, or the U.S. Virgin Islands and think, that is connected to the United States, so SSI should be fine. Do not assume that. For SSI purposes, Social Security treats some U.S. territories differently than many people expect. Social Security explains that people living in Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, and the U.S. Virgin Islands cannot receive SSI, while the Northern Mariana Islands is included for SSI purposes. That means a person could be visiting family in a place they think of as part of America. But for SSI rules, the trip may still count as being outside the United States. This is why the territory issue is so important. A long stay in Puerto Rico to help a relative, a visit to Guam, or a family emergency in the U.S. Virgin Islands may feel different from moving to another country. But for SSI, the question is not how it feels in ordinary conversation. The question is how Social Security counts that location under SSI rules. So before you travel, say this clearly when you call. "I receive SSI. I plan to leave the 50 states, D.C., or the Northern Mariana Islands. I am going to this place, leaving on this date, and returning on this date. Will this affect my SSI?" Do not rely on a travel agent. Do not rely on a cousin. Do not rely on a comment online. Get the answer from Social Security before the trip begins. Number 3. The key SSI rule is 30 consecutive days or a full calendar month. Here is the central rule in plain English. For SSI, you generally must not be absent from the 50 states, the District of Columbia, or the Northern Mariana Islands for a full calendar month or for 30 consecutive days or more. Those are two separate warning phrases. A full calendar month means the whole month on the calendar, such as all of May or all of June. 30 consecutive days means 30 days in a row. This is where many people get into trouble because they think in casual phrases. They say, I was only gone about a month. They say, it was just a long visit. They say, I left near the beginning of the month and came back near the beginning of the next month. But SSI rules are not based on casual memory. They are based on the dates. Social Security rules count absence carefully. In general, the period of absence begins after you leave and ends before you return, and the exact dates matter. So do not try to do this math in your head while standing in the airport. Write the dates down, your departure date, your return date, the place you are visiting, whether you might extend the trip, whether you receive SSI alone or SSI plus another benefit, then call Social Security before you leave. And here is the part families often miss. The original travel plan is not always the real travel timeline. Someone may plan to return in 25 days, then a relative gets sick. A flight is canceled. A passport issue comes up. A doctor says not to fly yet, the ticket change costs too much. Or the family says, just stay one more week. That one more week may be the week that changes the SSI payment. So when you plan, do not only count the perfect schedule, count the risk schedule. Ask yourself, if I am delayed 7 days, will I cross 30 consecutive days? If my return flight changes, who will tell Social Security? If I have a representative payee, does that person know the travel dates? If I get sick overseas, how will the reporting be handled? This is not being negative, this is protecting the monthly income. Number 4, if SSI is suspended, it may not restart the day you return. Have you ever thought about what happens the day you land back in the United States? Many people assume the payment just flips back on like a light switch. You come home, you unpack, the next deposit arrives, but with SSI it may not work that way. If you have been outside the United States for 30 consecutive days or more, your SSI generally cannot start again until you have been back in the United States for 30 consecutive days, assuming you still meet all the other SSI rules. That is the part that can hurt a household budget, because the person may come back home, but the payment problem may still not be over. Rent does not pause. Medication does not pause. Food costs do not pause. The electric bill does not pause. So if someone depends on SSI for basic monthly needs, this rule can create a serious gap. That is why the action step is not just, be careful. The action step is specific. Report the trip before leaving. Ask whether the dates trigger the SSI absence rule. Ask what happens if the trip is extended. Ask when SSI could restart if the rule is triggered, and keep proof of the date you returned. A boarding pass, travel record, passport stamp, ticket confirmation, or other documentation may help if Social Security later asks about your dates. Number 5. Call Social Security before the trip, not after the check is missing. Social Security's SSI guidance tells people to report when they plan to leave the United States and to provide the date they plan to leave and the date they plan to return. That is not just paperwork, that is protection. When you call, do not say, I might travel sometime. Give details. Say, I receive SSI. I plan to leave on June 5 and return on July 2. I am going to visit family outside the 50 states, DC, or the Northern Mariana Islands. Will this affect my SSI? If I am delayed, when would my SSI stop? If I trigger the 30-day rule, when could it restart after I return? What proof should I keep of my departure and return dates? If you have a representative payee, the payee should know the travel rule too. A payee may be the person who has to help report changes, read notices, and respond if there is a payment issue. Write down the date of the call. Write down what you were told. If the representative gives a name or reference information, write that down too. Keep copies of letters, tickets, travel records, and any notice you receive. The goal is not to make travel impossible. The goal is to stop a preventable benefit problem before it starts. Number 6. If you receive a notice after travel, do not ignore it. If SSI is suspended, delayed, reduced, or questioned after travel, open the letter right away. Read the dates. Read the reason. Look for appeal rights. Look for reporting instructions. Look for deadlines. If Social Security says you were outside the United States and you believe the dates are wrong, ask what evidence they need. Do not only argue from memory. Travel records can matter. If the notice says you were overpaid because SSI continued while you were outside the United States, ask what options are available. Depending on the situation, a person may be able to ask for reconsideration, request a waiver, or discuss a payment arrangement. That does not mean every request will be approved, but ignoring the letter is usually the worst move. There are also limited exceptions in certain situations, including some dependent children of military personnel and some students studying abroad. But do not build a travel plan around an exception unless Social Security confirms that the exception applies to your exact case. Exceptions are specific. They are not rumors, they are not family stories, they are not something to guess about after the trip. The safe question is, does any exception apply to my SSI case, or does the regular 30-day absence rule apply? Ask that before you leave. Now let's make this simple. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember these 3 steps. Step 1. Confirm the benefit type. Do you receive SSI, regular Social Security, SSDI, survivor benefits, or a combination? Do not guess, ask. Step 2. Call Social Security before leaving. Give the exact departure date, return date, and destination. Ask whether your SSI will be suspended, what happens if the trip is extended, and when SSI could restart if the 30-day rule is triggered. Step 3. Keep records and respond quickly. Keep proof of travel dates, report changes. If a notice arrives, open it, read it, and respond before the deadline. That is the practical checklist, not 10 complicated steps. 3 core actions: confirm, call, keep records. And here is the final warning: SSI is not regular Social Security retirement. A friend who receives retirement benefits may have a different travel rule. A relative who lives overseas and still receives a Social Security check may not be receiving SSI. A video that talks about Social Security overseas may not be talking about SSI at all. So do not rely on someone else's story. If SSI is part of your monthly income, the 30-day absence rule can matter. Being outside the United States, as SSI defines it, for a full calendar month or for 30 consecutive days or more can stop SSI payments. And after that kind of absence, SSI may not restart until you have been back in the United States for 30 consecutive days and still meet the other rules. That is why one extended family visit, one delayed return flight, or one misunderstanding about Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, or the U.S. Virgin Islands can become a benefit problem. So before you travel, make the call, give the dates, ask the SSI question separately, write down the answer. And if someone you love receives SSI and is planning to travel, share this with them before they leave. A short conversation before the trip can prevent weeks of stress after the trip. Subscribe for more plain English senior benefit alerts and send this to a parent, neighbor, caregiver, spouse, or family member who receives SSI or helps someone manage Social Security paperwork. Because with SSI, the difference between 29 days and 30 days can matter much more than most people realize.